Arsenal somehow concede 2 goals on Saturday, or as Liverpool call it, the best defensive performance ever. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name's Elliot Smith, the bot man, Gunner. That's right. Liverpool watched that and they thought they only conceded 2 goals. How is that possible? Because they would kill to only concede 2 goals. They're constantly conceding 3 or more. We had a weekend that could have been very, very funny. We had Richarlison celebrating his World Cup winner that turned out to just be a draw against United. That was very funny. We had Liverpool getting absolutely embarrassed, as much as I didn't want City to win. That was very funny. And we had the emotional lift of a huge win in the context of this season, but it was stripped away from us late. And I think sometimes you have to play the blame game. It's not what we usually do on the pod, but sometimes you have to put blame and assign it where it belongs. And I know that's not necessarily what you come here for, but we're going to do it. And so I'll just start it off right now. The blame belongs with Paul. And I think that's clear because as we were getting ready to celebrate this massive victory, we were going to do an instant reaction with all 4, Clive and Tim and Paul and me, all of us ebullient as we stretch our lead at the top of the table. And I messaged all of us, ? In the WhatsApp. And Paul messaged, yes, period, unless we concede a goal. And that was roughly 1 minute before we conceded a goal. So, again, just to be clear, we have to blame sometimes, and the blame belongs with Paul. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to have fun. This next 2 weeks is going to be your most fun time ever listening to podcasts because we have a blockbuster set of stuff coming. We've got a special pod about Martin Ødegaard, who will be returning not too distant future, deep diving on his profile, how he's different from the likes of, for example, an Eberechi Eze, and what he really gives us and what we will get back when he returns. Scott's going to have the data to that. I expect and hope that Clive will also participate in that so we can have some qualitative analysis as well. That'll be coming next week. This week, we have potentially a rewatch of the second half of Sunderland, trying to tee that up. Adam Cleary, who does some really good tactical analysis on his YouTube channel. He's going to come on for patrons as well. So Adam Cleary will be on Patreon, something that a lot of people have requested. So very excited to have that going on. So there'll be a lot of content. Plus, the 1994 Cup Winners' Cup series will be back and better than ever. And that is going to be concluding this week and next week. So I'm very excited to have all that come out and just keep us ticking over as we try to get through what is the last international break for a long time and then a very, very hectic period of the season. If you give us a 5-star review, we'd absolutely love it. It helps people find the pod as more and more people flee social media. We are going to try to do more stuff in person, as I always say, but we would love to have your 5-star review so that people can find the pod. It would mean a lot to us, and you mean a lot to us. And as I've always said, if that's not the kind of review you want to leave and you have criticism, I can give you Paul's email and you can send it to him. Last but not least, if you want to join the Patreon, code is AVP50. It's a couple of bucks, a couple of quid, a couple of euros, whatever money you use. There is an Apple subscription, by the way. If you feel better just having it with Apple, you can do that. The only thing I'll tell you is that Apple takes a big wedge. Okay, so you're going to be giving the Apple Corporation money, which is good because we want to see plucky underdogs like Apple thriving. But you can subscribe either place. Either way, you'll get the pods right in your Apple player or your Spotify player, wherever you normally get the pod. So we'd love for you to do that. 3.5 minutes, sorry, but a little of that was banter about Paul, and that's always acceptable because, and this is important, we love Paul, and he is here. Hello, Paul.
Woohoo! I do have one question for you. Is that the real reason I got cut out of the instant reaction at the weekend? Or is it because I shared with you my planned headline, which was fecking brilliant?
Yeah, I mean, both are good reasons. I think both. You causing us to drop points and you coming on after that draw, and your headline was going to be fecking brilliant.
I just wanted people to get
already on Mars, Paul. It can only go so far out into the universe.
That perspective of what a great occasion was, even if it didn't turn like just to zoom out, guys.
For those who don't know, the last time Paul's headline was fecking brilliant, I think was after we lost to Brentford in their promotion season to start the season when the Sky Sports guys were dancing with the Brentford
after
fans.
After the COVID season, and my take was, look, this is just a start. Football's back. I'm alive. It hurts.
You were ahead of the curve. You were ahead of the curve because that was really the start of us being good again. Okay, enough of that nonsense. Here with me now is Tim. Hello, Tim.
Hello there.
And Clive. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
The full house, all 4 of us. The Fantastic Four, no one has ever said. But, that's fine. The adequate 4 is here to talk about an adequate result. And to contextualize it, it's tough because it's a draw that's probably handy in the context of the run that we've just had and the players that we're missing. It's a win we had, and it was snatched away, so it hurts emotionally. I found it difficult. And so, Tim, I'll start with you just there. McCall was very clear that this was painful, that the players felt it like a loss. It's the context of being a couple minutes away from stretching that lead. It's the context of having the chance then late again to win it and it not going. It's the first real sucker punch we've had in a while. I think we talked about this. The last one was probably City away last season.
Maybe Liverpool away. Szoboszlai's free kick.
Yeah. That is actually a bit of a... I mean, although, what was it, about 74th minute?
No,
something like that.
85th.
82nd. Yeah,
All right,
82nd.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair point. I guess it felt earlier somehow. But they're not relevant, so it doesn't matter. So, just emotionally, can you contextualize for me how now with the dust settling, City pounding Liverpool, the way it was snatched away, how you're just feeling about the way the weekend and the game played out?
Yeah, I felt okay about it, as okay as you can feel about it at the time, because I felt like the outcome was bad, but the process, I mean, we can argue a little bit about bits and pieces of the process, but I wasn't sitting there thinking, oh my God, we've got a massive problem here. I was sitting there like, the thing is, once we went 2-1 up, once it got to about 85, 86 minutes, I could see they had nothing left, and I got nervous. And I was comparing it earlier to how I felt, for example, seeing out the Fulham game, where that could just as easily have happened at Craven Cottage, but I never thought it would. And I wasn't, I was like, look, someone could smash it in from 30 yards, but I don't feel like that's going to happen. Whereas the last few minutes of the Sunderland game, I was nervous because I thought, I can see we've got nothing left. We've got nothing really to bring off the bench, although I'm sure we'll debate that. And we're trying to sit on it and we're trying to see it out. And I did feel that Sunderland potentially looked dangerous, like and I felt if the goal was going to come, it was going to come in the exact manner it did, which is like ball into a box, knockdown and all of that. So, I didn't feel calm in those last few minutes. I was just like, please just get over the line. Please see it out. And we couldn't quite. But I felt process-wise, if there's a way to drop points, that's kind of it, where it's very explicable, very explainable, 3 away games in a week, 700 attacking injuries, etc., etc. Like, you can explain it away. And ultimately, we weren't going to win every game we had left, right? We were going to drop points somewhere. And like I said, if you're going to drop them, doing it in this kind of manner is I guess how you choose to do it in terms of your kind of long-term sanity. And I just think get 3 or 4 of those players back and we'll be fine, which it looks like we will. So I'm not massively worried long-term as much as obviously it was an emotional sucker punch.
This is a game with a lot to digest and a lot to break down, so I don't want to do too much throat clearing beforehand, but it's such a big weekend, Clive, that I think we have to do a little bit more of it. Having watched City really embarrass a Liverpool team that wasn't up for the challenge at all in any way, having seen some of the other results and then, knowing what we've had to do in this run, I think it is important to add some context. I'll give you this. Before the October international break, we had a 1-point lead over Liverpool, a 3-point lead over City, and a 5-point lead over Chelsea. After the international break, we have a 4-point lead over City, a 6-point lead over Chelsea, and an 8-point lead over Liverpool. So we stretched the lead over Liverpool by 7, stretched the lead over City by 1, and stretched the lead over Chelsea by 1 if you think Chelsea are relevant in this at all. The only caveat I'd add to that, though, is if you look at seasons in terms of runs, before the season kicked off, you would have circled this run and said, we got to accumulate points in that run. Now, to be fair, we have. It's all wins and 1 draw. So it's a pretty good accumulation of points. But in the context of what you saw this weekend, how do you evaluate the title race right now and any movement in your expectations based on what you saw this weekend?
Yeah, so when you walk into certain grounds, it reminds me of when we walked into Brentford that year when Carragher and co were in the crowd, and maybe when we went to Lons in the first European game for Lons. You walk into some grounds at the wrong time, right? And this was one of them. But in both of those games we lost. In this one, I think we performed really, really well in the circumstances, nearly won it. So as for the title race, I think you're right. You know how I look at things. It tends to be we're in the points accumulation phase right now, which we have done. I didn't think we would be where we were before the last international break. Whereas this run, we all had circled, and we probably had this amount of points in our mind.
Yeah.
This would have been okay. But then when you're winning in the 90, on the 90th minute, you're thinking, okay, you have a little of a gut punch that we didn't quite manage to get over the line. But we can talk about that in more detail. But as for the title race, I think it's coming out to how we expect. I mean, we've looked at Liverpool. I felt, and I've said it a million times, I felt the game against them was misread by everybody. What was on offer? I thought two cautious teams that weren't sure what to do. Liverpool had a purple 10 minutes scored within it, and it was just a bit late for us to respond. They walk away with the plaudits, we walk away with the questions, and I felt the questions against us were too harsh. I really did. Both teams weren't ready. Both squads weren't ready. Players just arrived. People weren't fit. The game came too soon. Whereas this weekend's game, City against Liverpool, that came at the right time. Both those teams are nearly at full strength. They're fit, they're sharp, they're ready to go. They're a bit more settled in their patterns of play. So it's a far better barometer for where both teams are. And okay, Liverpool could have equalised and maybe should have equalised, but I think we can all say that City were superior. And many of us have been looking at City and saying, you are better than Liverpool at the moment because your style is being developed on, and you know who you are. You've worked out who your key people are. You are playing to them in the goal, in the guy up front. You've added a goalkeeper to stabilise. They started the season with James Trafford. If he was in their net, there'd still be a problem, And that Nico Gonzalez has settled a little bit. They've found two fullbacks, and suddenly they look a bit more physical. They're rotating John Stones in and out, for European games versus league games, playing DS in the other games. They have a strategy. They have a plan. They recognise they haven't got Rodri, so they're blocking the middle. They have it sorted. So they have it sorted and they have the medals. So City is the one. Liverpool will no doubt find their feet, but they need to find defensive stability. And I can't see it in Kirkes, Konate. I even Conor Bradley's done really well. When he has the ball at his feet, I don't know where it's going to go. And Andy Robertson, he can't play all the time anymore. And so I do think City are the ones, and I think we're in a good place. But would love 2 more points.
And we were so close to it, right? Just so we're clear, right? A draw in the context isn't terrible. A draw after this run isn't terrible. It's simply that you're 2 minutes away and the way it happens. And I'm going to do something silly, Paul. I'm going to do the end first because it's such a big moment. It feels like doing that 90 minutes into the pod buries a lead. Let's just talk about the way that happens. Because, look, if you told me that if Leo's goal came at 90 plus 4, we'd be fist pumping the air and saying we showed a lot of character to get something from that game when we were down to very few players. But it's the manner of the defeat, and McCall spoke on it a number of times, right? The last feeling is disappointment and frustration because we wanted the 3 points. We had to navigate through a really tough game. We knew that. It was very disruptive. We have to deal with situations that are difficult to deal with. They did really well, and we conceded a goal that is not in our standards. I think that is sort of the thing that he underlines there. It's not in our standards. And on his emotions after the equalizer, McCall said, again, unsatisfied because I want to win and the game was almost there. But this is the Premier League and the manner they play. They're going to harm you in their way. It's just 1 goal difference there. I'm frustrated because it's an action we can defend better, but you have to give credit to the opposition for what they've done, to put the ball there, to head the ball the way they've done it, and then the striker to do it in that action and put the ball in the net. Sometimes you have to recognize that as well. I have this as a Raya error primarily. I've seen people frustrated with Saliba. I've seen people frustrated with not pressuring the ball being delivered. I've seen people upset with Gabby. So, Paul, you got lots to choose from. What's your analysis of the goal that ultimately snatches 2 of the points away from us?
Shit happens, basically, a little bit. They try and pump a cross in. It gets deflected, I think, off Saka's boot, which squirts it to the middle of the pitch. Xhaka moves it to the right quickly, and they ping in kind of a nothing ball with a bit of swerve on it. It is a nothing
ball. Yeah, yep. It's not a good ball.
No, but some guy nods it into an area we would normally clear, but we're scrambling. They've a couple of bruisers, or always manage to have a bruiser right in the spot. For the first goal, like Ballard, he's a man mountain, right? Brobby here is just one big solid lump. And fair enough on Raya. He does a bit of, like, we won our Invincible season with Jens Lehmann. If you ever watch any tape on him, he makes the odd crazy run out to a situation
First of all, you have to find tape. That's getting harder and harder. But if you find some tape, then you can watch it.
Well, that's actually the only way to watch Jens Lehmann, because it was back in 2004.
Did he ever charge out in a critical situation that cost him and the club in a major way that you can think of?
No, not that I know of.
No.
So, like,
I feel like something Paris, but anyway, carry on.
So, like, I think, look, Raya gets this one slightly wrong, but it's he probably felt the same way we did in that moment. Now he's paid to feel it a little differently, but, like, it's not completely ridiculous that he comes out. He's smothered many shots. Probably does brilliant to get, like, unfortunately, somehow to squirt that in the right direction. He's been muscled. He's being wrangled. We got footballed, I think, is really my analysis of that. Shouldn't have happened. Normally didn't happen. Now, to be fair, I'll say this. They had other situations, like 2-2. I don't think anybody looks at that game and say that Sunderland got away with one. They had enough situations in the game that 2-2 is probably a reasonable reflection of the game, but we had it. We had
XG doesn't really tell the story here, to your point, Paul, because it is a 2 to 0.4 XG game or something like that. 1.91 to 0.44. But I think, first of all, there's score effects, and if people don't know what score effects are, just really quickly, it's the effect of one team has the lead and the other team is having to chase the game, and so you tend to rack up, just some shots here and there. But the other thing is, they did have balls in the box, and Paul, to your point, do you think Raya comes for that because he's in that mindset? Two previous times earlier in the prior 10 minutes, he'd come and scrambled away balls heroically. Now, one I think was called offside, but I think VAR would have overturned that. The other one, he had to intervene from a ball that kind of fell at the feet of the striker. And so if you're the keeper and you've had to make these front-footed interventions, do you think that influences his decision to think, I need to be the guy, I got to come clean this up? But if he does, I also want to ask you quickly as we finish on this moment, why arms low? It's almost like he doesn't know Brobby's going to there. He thinks he's just going to catch it. And I'm wondering why he doesn't go big with the arms up to really block off all the position.
Yeah, so you joined the dots for me artfully. That's what I was trying to get to in terms of, this was like a set of three. This was the third time he'd come out to smother it. And like, he was in that mode. It was last ditch. And he'd saved us twice. The arms that, look, I'm not a great goalkeeping critic.
What would you say you are? A great, no, I'm just kidding. Carry on.
I occasionally look for the opportunity to try and say something that I think's funny. That's about it.
It's worth something.
Occasionally it lands. Usually it doesn't.
Yeah, carry on. You're good.
Yeah, so, like, he comes out. Are his arms wrong? Maybe. But at that stage, you're pure instinct. So I'm going to have to go with him. Like, the one thing he is doing, he may be getting there late, but he's reading the fact that he's, like, I'm going to assume Raya has his arms in a better position than I for one, can pick out. I think it's just one of those things. We leaned into our strength here. We're really good at defending a lead, and you're not going to win them all. And this was the one we didn't win. So,
Yep. Sometimes it's that simple. And I'll say two things on that moment, Clive, just super quick to get your thoughts on it. Because one, Brobby kicks it with his wrong foot. It's really clever. It's not the foot you think he's going to kick it with. Two, I think it takes a deflection off Gabby's shoulder or his head or something that takes it past Raya. So it is a bit unfortunate. Obviously, Gabby gets beaten to the ball by Brobby, but Saliba's also in no man's land. So, Clive, do you have any other angles on this that aren't just a Raya howler? Because obviously, if he stays on his line, he catches it, but that's easy to say in hindsight.
Yeah, I think you described it there. I think, right, just be honest, if it doesn't hit Gabby's head, it hits Raya in the face and goes out. Yeah, so it's just one of those situations in football, and I didn't see that deflection until yesterday. And so, but yeah, we can all spot this mistake in a goal when it goes in. Should Raya have come? I think he could see his defense was a little bit flagging, and he was trying to support them. Yeah, that's exactly what he should be doing. So I would encourage him to be front-footed like that, because he saved us so many times by being alert. And if you want to look at our defenders in this game, I think we could all see they were flagging a little bit. And what they are really good at, that word alert, I think this season, across the team, we've been quite mistake-free. And when we make a mistake, our alertness to cover has been significant. I think it's been the big change in how stable we look. And sometimes when even in the games, in the League Cup games and European games, when the non-first team defenders come on and we make a mistake, you can see how we used to lack control last year and maybe bring some indiscipline and decisions to referees to make with challenges. That's gone. We're so mistake-free. We are so alert to mistakes that we make. And you could see in this game the alertness to challenge for the first ball, to challenge for the second ball. It wasn't quite there consistently. And so we tucked in a bit on occasions. We gave wingers a chance to put the ball in the box. We dropped off a bit. We were just flagging, trying to get through it the best way possible. The best way to do that was with proximity of people and then to challenge for things. And they won a couple of first balls and got a second ball and got 2 goals for it. I think if you were rewriting this, knowing, and when you see the 2 goals again, and knowing that Dan Ballard is the guy they're going to aim for, I don't see why we don't just mark Dan Ballard with Gabriel and let everyone else take care for itself. Do you know what I mean? And on the second goal, that's harder to do because in free play, and it was a reverse cross, and Sleeper was there, just didn't get off the ground. But on the first one, I felt we should have dealt with that much better. And if you look through the rest of the game, we did deal with the first balls much better. That was the only mistake we sort of made. And I thought we were so well prepared in Prague for the guy that came in, that big tall striker that came in. And I felt we should have been more prepared, particularly on the first goal, funny enough. Second one happens. The first goal, I thought we could have been better prepared for after that free kick.
Yeah, well, let's do that then, Tim. Just quick, since we're on it, let's bounce back to the first goal we conceded. And we're on this run of clean sheets, so it was this weird feeling to concede. Like, oh, what's that? And by the way, credit to Dan Ballard. Like, sometimes you got to praise the opposition. Sunderland were good. They were physical. But this guy, Dan Ballard, who was an Arsenal Academy kid, who spoke about his love for the club and that everything he is as a player he owes to Arsenal Football Club, he was at that level you go to sometimes when you're very motivated. And he was very motivated. Not that he isn't in other games. His finish for the first goal, left foot, right foot, roofs it. Beautiful finish, striker's finish. His block on Marino at the death, maybe even better. I mean, that is absolute hero shit. Just sensational. So kudos to him. Sometimes you have to tip your cap, but for the first goal, I think it's just the thing you don't see very often. And I have to say, I felt in this game, and maybe not just in this game, but maybe at other times, I'm not sure we always deal with long, straight balls very well. Now, someone had said to me recently, who does deal with long, straight balls well? It's blowing. It's hard to tell where it's going to land. And you've got a big physical team contesting it when it could drop anywhere. But Rice doesn't really contest the first ball. Gabby gets beaten on the second one. Rice doesn't follow his man. It's very uncharacteristic from 2 of our absolute leaders and 2 players you expect to clear danger. So you have an analysis of maybe our challenge with long straight balls in this game in general, and the first goal, how it goes in?
Yeah, I think we're going to see more of this, and not just against Arsenal as well. I think there's a guy called John Muller. He used to write for The Athletic. I don't think he does anymore, but does like really good analysis stuff. And I saw like a little thread he'd done on Blue Sky where a few weeks ago he was saying, like, he was talking about, he called it the Dyche zone, because like typically under Sean Dyche, Everton, anytime Everton get a free kick, within like 70 yards of the goal, it's Jordan Pickford launching it long and high because he's got a great long kick on him. And he was saying like he thinks that's going to be the next thing that everyone does, that every time they get a free kick in their own half, like if you're doing long throws, which to be honest, with the exception of Brentford, I can't really see anyone that looks particularly dangerous from long throws, certainly not in terms of creating chances. If you're going to do long throws, you might as well do like get your goalkeeper to boot the ball into the area as often as possible and play for the percentages. And Sunderland certainly did that, and they did it very well. They've certainly got the players to do it as well. Yeah, I think like both Rice and Gabriel probably don't cover themselves in glory at the same time. I think, to your point, it's been so long since we've conceded a goal that everything that is not perfect looks weird.
That's true. Yeah.
And I think obviously, the other thing about launching the ball into the box is once Ballard gets on to the knockdown, the second contact, you can't touch him. Like, Rice can't do anything at that point, otherwise it's a penalty. If he's outside the area, I'm sure Rice just leans across him, eases him over, and we have a free kick to defend at the edge of the box. But you can't do that once the ball's in the area, which is why more and more teams will do this. It's the same principle as a corner, isn't it? Like, you can't touch anyone. Well, unless you elbow them in the face, that's okay.
We're coming to that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? You mentioned it. Have your go on this, Tim, because I know you're animated about it. There's the moment where Marino gets elbowed in the head in the box. And I think this is one of those really tough things where I don't know that I want it to be a penalty, but then I see what's given as a penalty in other games and I say, why don't I want that to be a penalty? It's a thrown elbow. It impedes Marino's ability to head the ball.
Let me preface this by saying nobody gets that as a penalty. That's not given, and that's actually the subject of my annoyance, because I don't understand why. I don't understand why tickling someone's shoelace or like accidentally grabbing a bit of the ticket out of their shorts. Look at Doku yesterday. Like, the contact is so slight that you need go gadget eyes to see it. And that's a penalty, but like sticking your elbow out on the side of someone's head isn't. And it's the same with, I feel the same about it with violent conduct as well. I feel like it's quite easy to get a red card for a misplaced tackle, but if you smash someone in the side of the head, it's somehow fine. He stops him from getting the ball by elbowing him in the side of the head. I don't think it's like a violent, like, swung elbow. Like, I don't think it's like a violent conduct thing. I think Marino's stopped from getting to the ball by an elbow in the side of the head, and I don't understand why it doesn't follow. Like, if Ballard had accidentally clipped Marino's leg, that would be given as a penalty. I don't... To me, this just feels like one of those weird things we all accept that football has decided on, that to me makes zero sense whatsoever. And I've always had a bee in my bonnet about it. I think there are loads of things like that in football where it's like, why has everyone just decided this completely illogical thing is okay? So I think it absolutely should be a penalty, but I also understand that, like, I don't think that's like any great conspiracy. I don't think anyone gets that penalty, and I just don't understand why. No one can make me understand the logic of that.
This is one of those things too, Clive, in football, and this is where I want to get to the first half in general. When a ref knows that a game is going to be physical, it feels like physical play becomes more permitted that wouldn't otherwise be. But this was a game where I felt, and again, I am not making this a referee chat, I will simply say I felt Sunderland were permitted to play in the physical way they wanted in a way that we weren't. And the best example of that, ironically, is on their first goal, because while Rice makes an error and Gabby makes an error, and we shouldn't concede there, that shouldn't be a free kick, and it shouldn't be a yellow for Zubimendi. He gets the ball. It's a good, clean tackle. So I don't think it should be a free kick. But it was just a very physical half. And this is something that I'm curious about your take about how the half went and our ability to sort of puzzle it out and figure out what to do. So a few things that I'll tell you. The game winds up looking okay statistically for us, but in the first half, 5 shots for Arsenal to 3 for them. 0.47 expected goals to 0.18 for them. We had 12 touches in their box to 7 for them. It was a bitty game. And one of the stats that jumped out to me, the ball was in play for 13 of the first 34 minutes. It was exactly the kind of game that Porto wanted when they played us recently. It's the exact kind of game Sunderland would have wanted. And I just wonder, Clive, what you think, if anything, we can do to puzzle out how to avoid that happening, or how you compete with that. Because I do think we'll see more and more long straight balls, fouls, teams trying to be more direct with free kicks. And unfortunately, I think the better you are, the more you see teams wanting to disrupt games in this way.
Yeah, I think I'm fine with direct play. It doesn't bother me. I think we're well equipped to deal with it. And
should be, yeah.
We are one of the best teams to deal with it. And as soon as we start dealing with it and start turning around and going back at teams even more, they'll stop doing that, right? So the ball in play time, I think we had 2 sets of bandages coming on nearly, didn't we? We had 2 issues, and they were down for a long time. Was it 7 or 9 minutes injury time in the first half? I can't remember which one. But those injuries... I
want to say 9. Yeah, it was 9.
Those injuries allowed the game to be a bit more that Sunderland could manage from an effort perspective, and it sort of made the first half null and void. I don't mind this. I said this yesterday. Or I said it somewhere in my head. Maybe it's all about how you like your steak, right? And I think we should be allowed to have whatever we like, and they should be allowed to play however they want to play. I am absolutely fine with it, and we need to contend with it. I think there was a feeling. I did feeling all weekend. This is my feeling, so I've got to get it out, right? So we're reading the Carragher article on Friday when they talk about the wonderful City and Liverpool era, the highest level of Premiership play ever, and we're playing each other on Sunday, and those pesky Southerners are playing their game on Saturday night, and basically then the game starts, and then the commentators say the ball's only been played a long time. I thought, we're being set up here to be the ugly ducklings. We're the ugly ducklings that are brought in long throws, brought in set-piece play, but Liverpool and City are going to show us the light on Sunday. So when I heard that stat come out, Elliot, about ball in play 30 minutes, I thought, I was angry straight away. I was angry. But then the second half started, right? And then we started to show people that we can play football. And that was shut up. And this whole game, as a game, was a wonderful piece of steak, right? It was a wonderful advertisement for the English game. Something that you couldn't put in a corner. And Sunderland are representing their club in the best way they can. They played with bravery and courage, and they put it on us. And they're not going to sit there and let these elite clubs not defend their area. And I think it's about time. I felt in recent years, teams haven't played City when they were vulnerable. They didn't play Liverpool hard enough when they were vulnerable. And now they're getting played. And they don't look so stable. I think it's important that the lower teams say, no, we're not accepting that you're better than us. We're going for you. And I thought it was excellent from Sunderland. I thought we responded in a way which I never felt was in us. You know, and I was massively encouraged by how we responded, similar to what he did at Newcastle. And I just thought it was magnificent. So I'm not sure I've answered your question, but that's how I feel about this game at the weekend. I thought it was a wonderful example.
Can I ask you a tactical question quickly? And you can laugh at me, because every time I try to talk tactics, everybody laughs at me. But I observed something, and I think it was leading to us having a little bit of a hard time playing in the right areas. They were in a 5-4-1 out of possession, Clive. And Ødegaard was marking highest up. They weren't pressing. They were kind of in a mid-block, and Ødegaard was marking. Rice and Zubimendi were very close to each other, and Ødegaard was able to go mark both. So the ball would go to Rice, and he'd go stand in front of Rice, and then they passed to Zubimendi, he'd go stand in front of Zubimendi. And I was hoping for them to split a little more so that Ødegaard had to make a choice, but it just seemed like he was able to mark both of them, and it was kind of impeding us from getting the ball forward. And I was kind of curious about that. I thought that was, maybe that was by design, so we get other people in a position. What did you think just about their shape out of possession? And again, another first half where it felt to me like we needed a lot of time to figure out how to get the ball up the pitch.
Well, see, I have a different view. I felt all season. I felt all season when you're going into these big games with so much at stake, there is no problem to looking at the game. There isn't a problem to look at your tactic and see what the other team are doing to work out what you need to do. Right, so we start up in a stable way, then we expand when we see where the vulnerabilities are. I thought we did that at Anfield. I thought we did that against City, but they stabbed us in the mouth. I think we did it quite a lot of times this season. I haven't seen us tear into a team and impose our attacking game on them from minute one all of the time. I think the Forest home game was excellent. Leeds took a while to get going. So I think tactically now, managers are looking at each other. Say, okay, what are we doing? What are we here? Let's make an adjustment. So we have multiple plans for a game. So I know everyone's talking about we keep throwing away first halves, but to me, that's part of the game. It's part of how we get on top of teams. We understand them. Look at the Prague game. They tore into us. We knew it was coming. We fought them off, saw them off, and then dealt with them. I just think I'm fine with it, Elliot. If I was ever setting up a team, this is what I would do. I would set up my stable system. I would have a look at them, and I would go from there. So that's how I feel about it.
Paul?
Yeah, I think this is a fascinating question. I think, of course, in every game, there's something tactical that you can tweak from the first half. So, yeah, I'm sure your eyes go to a few things, and I'm sure when the manager gets them in at halftime, that's exactly what he's talking to them about. And kind of Clive alluded to that, looking at the first half to work out what you... But I also think you say, oh, well, the second half was so much better. Why didn't we do that in the first half? Well, because the other team isn't tired yet. What are you doing in the first half? You're trying to score. You're trying to move them around. You're also trying to exhaust them. And like, I think the little adjustment we need to make, not that you can't tactic it, not that you can't spot, well, maybe we need to move it to that guy faster, that guy needs it. But we're going to have those games because teams sit in. We had that game against Burnley. We had it against Crystal Palace, Atletico Madrid. The first half was hard work. And like, we should analyze it, but we shouldn't overanalyze it. I don't think there's anything we need to do apart from in each game there's something to learn, a tweak to make, and to understand that the second half is when we get our payoff from what we do in the first half. The first half's not going to look that great when they sit in. It's just not. We'll unlock it with the set piece, or we won't, or maybe we'll get that goal, but we probably are going to have to wait till the second half. And the second half, we're going to be great. And it's like, oh, why didn't we do that in the first half? So it's just that there's a degree of how hard you lean into that. And like, what do we need to learn? Patience. And trust, right? This team delivers in the starting to deliver in the second half, and really did deliver in this game. The surprise was we dropped our guard for a moment or two.
Yep. We've been very fortunate, Tim, to have McCall Marino chipping in with goals in a role that he never should have had to play, and it's only through massive misfortune again that McCall Marino was drafted in to be a center forward for us. But I think it's an interesting one to analyze, because if you look at our performances in the league when McCall Marino has played striker, they've not been our best. Now, many of those came last season during the period where we were massively injury depleted. We are again, by the way, but not for long. And where we were focused on the Champions League. So they kind of went under the radar. But that was not a good period of performances for us. And I do think that in the first half, we saw how much we miss Gyökeres running and forcing the defenders back. And it's interesting. One of the first fouls that was committed by Arsenal in the game, Granit Xhaka stops his teammate. I'm not sure it was any points up the pitch. Like, we're going up there. We're playing it long. And I do wonder how much they'd want to do that if you have Gyökeres running in behind or Martinelli running in behind, because you do have to trust that if we go up long, they could come right back at us long with someone who can test us. But we don't have that testing pace. So the miss with Martinelli and Gyökeres both being out is just that extra couple of yards. And it is incumbent upon Marino to try to find a way to occupy center backs and keep that back line pushed back. So in the first half, I thought you saw the lack of a point to the spear. But how do you diagnose some of the, I mean, other than the fact the ball just wasn't in play, how do you diagnose some of the challenges in the first half and maybe incorporate a little bit the question of using McCall Marino up front?
Yeah, I felt the thing is about Marino, it works and it doesn't work all at the same time. Basically, I think both of those things are true. The reasons it doesn't work, I think he has very little responsibility for, given the stage of his career that we're asking him to do this for the first time. However, I think James Benj shared not his touch map, but where he won headers. Now, there's something very obvious in that they're all over on the right, basically, nearly all of them. So it's very obvious. Flick it onto Saka. That's what's going on there. I think what happened was he was way too deep, though. And I kind of get that maybe when David Raya's got the ball, for example, but it felt like he spent a lot of time almost where I'd expect Yuri and Timber to be. And yeah, we had Eza filling the 9 spot on occasion. We had Saka moving in, but to me, like I've never liked the whole quote unquote false 9 thing. Basically, I kind of think it's the sort of thing you do when you've got loads of injuries. Basically, I don't think it's anyone's first choice. And yeah, I felt that he just wasn't in areas to go and affect the game, particularly because he is actually a player who can compete with someone like Dan Ballard. And actually, in fairness to him, where is he when he gets the elbow we talked about earlier? He's where I'm kind of complaining he wasn't enough. And then, like, it's clear to me that he was told at half time, let's have you on the edge of the box a little bit more, because look at our equalizer. Where is he? Bang. He's centre forward. He's absolute tip of the diamond, centre forward when that ball breaks. And I just felt in the first half, I can understand some of those things. I can understand why he drops deep to connect. I can understand that's why it's his instinct and all of that. But really what Marino is great at for me, and don't get me wrong, and stuff like, I didn't want him to come off at the end because it's like they're going to launch the ball in the area. I want him back competing for some of those headers, and he does that quite a lot, very, very well. He did it at Everton away last season. Like, I think he played up front in that game. But really, every time Jordan Pickford had the ball, he was like a third centre-back. And he adds a lot of value that way. But I just felt in the first half the balance was way, way, way off where it needed to be in terms of being a focal point. And yeah, to your point, it's a shame we didn't have some of those in-behind threats. But then, to be honest, at the points where we were really attacking, when we were 1-0 down, it wasn't an in-behind game anyway. When we really could have done with a Martinelli or Gyökeres or someone like that was actually when we were 2-1 up, and we didn't have that player.
Yes. And we will come to the subs issue because I absolutely fundamentally agree that the bigger miss was not having the out ball late rather than the out ball early. 17 touches in the attacking third from Marino, 18 touches in the middle third, maybe a little bit of something there. Before we pivot to the second half and some other performances, Clive, anything on that?
No, I totally agree. I think we miss an out ball because we've become accustomed to having a running, hard-working centre forward that wants to fight people. And Sunderland had a very traditional centre back that really didn't have anyone to fight against. If we'd have given him someone to fight against, he maybe would have stayed out of our box. And so I think we missed that. We've become used to it, and I like it. And this is part of the course of the season, though, isn't it? Having to make do. I just think we've seen Marino a lot at centre forward. We've tried to adjust for it. We've added the depth. And then the depth has got itself all injured. And so we're having to watch something which we all know is not optimal. You know, we all know it. The fact he scored the goals he scored this year has just been incredible. Right? So
nearly a winner in this one.
Yeah, exactly. And he's so smart. He has the instinct around the box. And I think in the first half, Tim's right. He was in some. I just looked at his heat map. Man, what are you doing over there? You know, so Tim's right. But again, it's all part of what we do to establish ourselves in games. You know, we establish ourselves and we have to make sure we control the middle, we control areas. I just feel maybe he's in the wrong areas a little bit too long to offer the forward threat. But I did feel the first half was so bitty. It was hard to really sort of see a plan from either team, really.
Yeah, we got to get to Saka's goal, his performance. Leo, heroic performance again. Guys have an amazing season. Rice, Zubimendi, there's a lot to talk about. The end stage, the lack of subs. So still a lot of conversation to go, and you're required to stay for all of it. So how about I do something for you so you do something for me? What you'll do for me is you stay for the rest of the pod. What I will do for you, I think you know what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to help you find the brands that could completely change your life. And one thing, you know what I don't want to see? I don't want to see you on your deathbed. Now, I may not be there. I may be there. We share it together. I'll probably be long gone before you are. But I don't want you on your deathbed to be sitting there saying, I had a great life. I've got my family all around me. Everything is good. There's so much good in my life. But there was that one really funny post on social media I couldn't watch because it was geo-locked in my area. And to this day, I'm desperate to know what it would have been about. Elliot told me to get Nord. And had you done it, you would have known. And then you would have the perfect life. No regrets. No ragrets. So if you want no regrets, get NordVPN. You can put the app on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer. You can watch the funny stuff that's geo-locked. You can watch the match reviews of the day show. You can travel around the world and watch the football using your regular content that you subscribe to. You can dodge the blackouts. You can watch the shows that aren't available in your region anymore, and you can get threat protection. So if you are on, let's just say, dodgy streams, those dodgy streams don't leave dodgy stuff on your device. NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision. Get a huge discount off your Nord plan, plus 4 months on top, 4 bonus months. NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision. 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 Do it now, and we've got more. Lucky you. Lucky, look how lucky you are. Don't say we never do anything for you. Okay, we want to tell you about Shopify. I think it's really this simple. If you want to sell something and you are passionate about selling something, the thing that can stop you from doing that is feeling like, oh, I'm never, ever going to figure out how to make a website and sell stuff on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and all the different sites where you have to sell, and then I'm never going to be able to figure out how to design it and do cart optimization and shipping. What if there was a place You could go where all you do is write the description of your products, post the pictures, and it did all the rest. That's Shopify. Optimizes carts, tells people, hey, you left something in your cart. It helps you with pricing and taxes and shipping and puts it on Instagram and puts it on Facebook and does all that for you, builds you a world-class website. Realize Fortune 500 companies use Shopify. But you can use Shopify and do it with a $1 per month trial. How's that sound? Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase, to start selling Shopify today. Shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Do it now. And therapy is one of those things that I really fundamentally believe every single human being should do. It is that simple. They are finding so much research now that people that engage even in text chat therapy report happier lives, less emotional challenges, help and support that they need. I think sometimes we think of therapy as an emergency action, right? I am in crisis and I need help. And if you are in crisis, please get help. Know that you are loved. And there are a lot of places to help you. But therapy can be about maintenance in the same way that good nutrition or exercise can. Talking to someone helps. Now, when I did therapy, I went to an office and I sat in front of a therapist and I did that process and I love that. But I realized that can be intimidating for people, too expensive for people. It means getting in a car, driving to an office, having a therapy session, driving back. Maybe you don't have the time. Maybe you're like my mother who is no longer able to drive. Does that mean she shouldn't have access to therapy? With BetterHelp, you get access to therapy. You can improve your health because mental health is health. You can get the help you need. You can talk through the things that are holding you back. You can get connected to a therapist in your area. Okay, all of that. I should mention, by the way, this is a paid ad by BetterHelp. That's important. I have to say that. So all of that is to simply say that this month, don't wait to reach out. Whether you're checking in on a friend or checking out a therapist yourself, BetterHelp makes it easier to take that first step. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/vision. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/vision. Do it now. And last but not least, Indeed. Oh, they're back. They were never gone. Indeed is the hiring platform that allows you to attract, interview, and hire all in one place. You hire fast. The hiring process is bad. And I think one of the reasons it's bad is because the people who are qualified don't get connected with the jobs, and the people trying to hire don't get connected with the qualified candidates. And so you're on 5 different websites. You're trying to hire people from all over the place. You are not finding the people. And then you have the misalignment. So the people trying to get jobs have a bad experience. They come into the jobs having had a bad experience. And the people trying to get talent don't find the right talent. Indeed fixes that problem. You can stop struggling to get a job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. It makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now. And listeners to this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Just go to Indeed.com/ArsenalVision right now and support our club by saying you heard about, support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed. Don't you good? Send up that.
Indeed.
No. Okay. Second half, much, much better, Clive. Yes?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, good. No. Why? Why was it so much better? Tempo. Intensity.
Yeah.
Playing in the right areas.
I'll be honest with you. I've grown used to this team, and I thought, this is set up, mate. I said to you at halftime, I'll take a draw. This is set up. Third away game. This is set up, mate. This is us. Will we get back? Will we get back? We didn't just get back. We really did impose ourselves on them with a real level of quality and intention. And it was really good stuff. I mean, the goal was just people taking charge of the situation. Excuse me, Saka. And the second goal we could probably go into. But I just, from a general point of view, I was really pleased and proud as punch, right? I mean, none of us went to this game on, which normally Tim would be up there somewhere. But it's a sort of game, if you are in that away end, you are buzzing about that second half performance. You're there thinking, I've done the miles. And look what they're doing for me here. They are giving it absolutely everything. They've taken the physical off them. Mm-hmm. They've pushed them back. We haven't got our forwards. We know we had to do it in a subset of time because we know we're going to fatigue in those forward areas. And we did. We plucked 2 goals out of nowhere. And maybe to run out of puff. But I was so impressed with the intensity and the intention to get around the ball and create waves of attack. So when we lost it, we didn't just drop off. We went straight back for it to counter, to get it back again, to really move them about. And when you look at some of the, even on the Trossard goal, look where the Sunderland back line is. it's almost like the penalty spot, mate. It's right in the box, you know, and that's why an edge of area shot was on offer because of our efforts beforehand. So I was genuinely pleased, and it should give us all a lot of confidence about how serious this team is. And I'm sure you guys saw it when I watched it on TV. There was a break in play, and they sort of went to Trossard, and Trossard was sort of talking to everybody, and he was shouting them, saying, "Come on, we can do this. Keep your focus, keep your focus." And I saw that, and I thought, mate, this group, they want it. They really do want it. And I thought it was excellent, Elliot. And some people have said it's the best half we played this season. You know? And let's be honest, let's just bring it back to Old Trafford. The first game of the season, we took the points, but I thought we played way better in this game than we did at Old Trafford. You know, much better, more intention.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, yeah, sometimes the performance is everything. We didn't get the 4 points, but I thought the performance was really, really good.
I mean, we worked our way into the second half, and then we just absolutely pounded them. And I do think because the game started to play a little bit more flowingly, physically they couldn't keep up. Technically, they couldn't keep up. They couldn't get the stoppages like in the first half, and it just started to happen. So there were so many opportunities. Rice found Zubimendi in the box, 50th minute. He turned well, but the shot was poor. In the 52nd minute, Leo went to Zubimendi, who went to Saka from the left-hand side, shot wide. Saka gets his goal in the 54th minute. We'll come to that. Timber was in, but couldn't control it in the 55th minute right after the goal. Leo played an amazing pass to Zubimendi, running into the box, and Zubi's shot squirted just wide. Remember the one he just tickled it, and it went wide, 58th minute. Rice had a pass block that fell to Eze, and Eze's volley was saved in the 59th minute. Great pressure. And then Zubimendi volleys off the bar a few minutes later. We were all over them, on top of them. And Paul, I'm curious how you attribute this change. We started playing in the right areas. For me, one of the things that I attribute to is Zubimendi coming into the game. He started to play more advanced. He was getting into the box. He and Rice were just both one zone up on the pitch. Rice crushing everything down. The way he takes the ball off Enzo Laffi for Saka's goal is like the Terminator. Literally, Enzo Laffi knows he's coming for him. He can't get away from him. He just keeps coming. And then Zubimendi's there taking shots inside the box, playing last balls. They were higher up and influencing the game in a way they weren't able to influence it in the first half.
Yeah, to me, this was a boxing match playing out. We were the better boxer. They knew it. We knew it. The first half was all about landing some body punches, hitting the stomach, hitting the body, getting them to pull down their gloves a bit. By the second half, we were finding our rhythm, moving it around. I thought Zubimendi was a huge part of that. I think Trossard was a huge part of it. I think the reason we're seeing a lot of Trossard is we know we've kind of been isolating Saka 1v1 on the right-hand side because we don't have Ødegaard, and that's worked for us. So you need a bit more control, a bit more circulation, intelligence, a platform. And I think between Trossard, there was a really interesting point in the game in the first half, and Clive mentioned, Trossard kind of taking on the leadership role in the urging players on. But there's a clip during one of the injury breaks where Arteta's talking to Trossard. Now, as you can picture it, Arteta's going to be there with his arms. He's going to be but that's not what's happening with Trossard. This is two guys talking football super calmly. You always see Arteta trying to impress the point on somebody, but you don't need to impress it on somebody who's already got it. This is a conversation of guys talking football in the middle of a really intense match. And it was just stood out for me. Arteta doesn't talk to players like that, but he talked to Trossard as two guys discussing tactics. He didn't need to explain them. He just needed to talk to him about it because Trossard was already there. I thought he'd played a big role in the second half. And Zubimendi does that thing where he moves into the pocket of space. And when we need a goal, he's the guy who'll push forward first into that pocket, into the right 8th spot. He'll go wherever he needs to be. And we're starting to see a dimension to this player that we didn't really know we had. I think most of us, when we got him in the summer. And those players with Calafiori making those runs into the back line, they all stir the pot. But I do think there's still the tendency to say, oh, what did we do in the second half? We did some things in the second half. We did them more. We did them faster. I don't think you can write off what you do in the first half in terms of the body blows to bring the, why does that boxer look better in the 6th, 7th, and 8th round? Because of all that boring shit he did in the first 2, 3, 4 rounds where he's punching in the body, tiring them out, and it looks slower because it is slower. That's what, the other team does tactics. The other team also gets to drop some energy, give you an extra yard.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And we mopped that up, and we stepped into that, and we moved them around, and we absolutely worked them over in the second half. It was great stuff. And like the one thing I'm hearing in the narratives, and we've done our best to ignore the narratives out there with your Carragers and your Nevilles and stuff, and I've done a very good job ignoring them. But you'd also notice that recently they've been very complimentary. And coming out of this weekend, they're still very complimentary because it's very clear this is a strong team. The one miss I think they have is, I've heard various versions of, and it relates to this second half. And it relates to our players coming back, the guys we didn't have on the bench today or against Sunderland. And like I hear them say, Arsenal's really good. They're defensive. They're strong. They're consistent. But I hear a version of, but City on their day, Liverpool on their day with their attack. I'm like, we've done really well with our attack. We are starting to stitch together our open play. And we may not have the most sparkling attack in the league at the moment, but when we get our full bench back, if that ever happens, from an attacking standpoint, we've got a bench from an attacking standpoint that is to dream for the rest of the season. If we can keep most of them fit, because
which will definitely happen.
Yeah, which will definitely happen, because you don't just win games on the attack with the most sparkling performance. You win it with the depth that you have your 70-minute players and you have your 20, 30-minute players.
The energy. Yeah. And I mean, to your point, this is the thing you don't feel when you're watching a game because you're not playing it. You don't feel the muscles fatiguing, the lungs bursting. You don't feel that. And when you control possession and you move a team around, it may look like, oh, you're just going around the horseshoe, you're not doing anything. But as they're sliding side to side and running and chasing and harrying and running, those legs and muscles are fatiguing. But to your point, Sunderland made 4 subs in this game, and we made 1. So they took 40% of their outfield fresh. We made 1 sub in the 87th minute. Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah. And while everybody else is maybe discounting our attack and talking up that City is coming stronger, and they are, we're going to come stronger. We've got an asymmetric upside to our attack that the league hasn't seen yet, and I'm fine with that. We have upside. We are going to get stronger. Of course. We are going to grow into this season. So don't be thinking this is our cap and it's like, can we hold off the charge? We're going to step up too.
Yeah, it is a little bit weird to analyze Arsenal right now. And again, there is a difference. I've always said this. There's a difference between making an excuse and asserting analysis and explanation. The fact that these players are missing is an explanation for an inability to freshen up and maybe finish games as strongly as we would like. But it is a little bit insane when you look at these teams and, if you go to like the FOTMob app or whatever, it shows injured and suspended players. Martinelli, Gyökeres, Ødegaard, Jesus, Havertz, Madueke. 6 attackers, all of whom would be incredibly valuable and important in a game like this.
You mentioned Ødegaard, you probably did, but
yeah, he's on the list. Yep, he was in there. That was one of the names of the players,
right?
Yeah, it's important. Well, that's an interesting one, Tim. I want to get to the Saka and Leo of this, but I do think an important one is just Ødegaard plays his role in a very unique way. He's so involved. I think we're learning how to replace that a little with Zubimendi and Rice starting to take more responsibility for progressing and getting the ball at the pitch. And indeed, if you look at them, Zubimendi had 8 progressive passes. Rice had 11, right? Zubimendi had 9 passes in the final third. Zubimendi had 9 passes in the final third. Rice had 10. So they let us in that. That's usually the Ødegaard superpower. Eze's playing it in a different way. And I actually saw a decent amount of critique from this game. And as someone who loves the player, I might be accused of just defending him, but I actually thought we saw him working really hard off the ball from a pressing structure standpoint, even though that's not necessarily something he's always been as natural at.
Did he lead us for shots? Yeah.
4 shots. Yep, took the most shots. He is playing more like a 10. He's a lineup. He's waiting for the ball to get to him. He wants to drop some quality on that ball, drip some quality on that ball. in those key moments that change a game, he did have that one shot he curled over. I thought he could do better. Fell to him at the top of the box. I thought he just passed that right in. He maybe snapped it a little bit, but like he's taking 4 shots. He's creating a chance. He's running around off the ball, but he is not going to come back and get the ball and bring it forward. And that maybe that's something that we're having to figure out on the fly, how to adjust to that.
Yeah, definitely. I've said for a few weeks, I have a little pet theory that we need at least one of Ødegaard or Havertz in the team as that kind of connective tissue. Because the thing is, when you look at, I mean, our midfield's changed a lot. Like 2 guys in our midfield on Saturday who weren't at the club last year, you know, and we couldn't replace either of them either. So, you know, that there's a lot of new stuff happening. And I think kind of what's happening a little bit, you've got like Rice, who's a 6'8", Zubimendi's a 6'8", Partey and Jorginho were 6, and they can pass, but they can't move type thing. Mm-hmm. So like very, very fixed point. Ezra's very different actually in terms of we haven't really played with like a 10 probably since Smith Rowe first came into the team. And so like, but Ezra's more like a 10-9, you know, like he's someone who wants to go and join the striker and play off the striker and all that, which is all really, really valuable stuff. I just think the thing with Ødegaard is he's a 6 and he's an 8 and he's a 10 all at the same time. And I think he's the only one who's in every phase of play. Well, in a creative sense as well. Declan Rice is in every phase of play. A lot of that's out of possession though, because he just covers every single blade of grass. Whereas Ødegaard, it's much more like touch 10 yards, and you work up the pitch with Ødegaard because he's like the road runner. He's just absolutely everywhere. So I think it would be less of a problem if we had Havertz up front, like, you know, because I think Havertz, much more than Marino, has that sense of when to drop and connect and when to stay. Like Havertz is your 9 who's kind of an 8 at the same time. So we have all these like hybrid positions going on, but actually a lot of the dynamics underneath that have changed, and some of them have necessarily changed just through injuries as well. So and look, in this game as well, like you said, Ezra led us for shots. We're playing a very nasty deep block. I want a guy who's going to take shots from the edge of the area. We're going to talk about a guy in a minute, I'm sure, who takes a shot from the edge of the area, who gets us 2-1 up. That could just as easily have been Ezra in this game. There were a couple of shots he had where, you know, there's 10 Sunderland players in the area. They're all sticking their legs out, and somehow the ball, like a heat-seeking missile or something, just whatever the opposite of a heat-seeking missile is, just manages to somehow miss all those limbs. There's one actually where he chests it down and he volleys it, and he volleys it quite straight. But he actually, if you watch the replay, he starts to peel away. And I don't think he peels away as if he's about to celebrate because he thinks this is going top bins. I think he can see, I've connected well with this. Someone's probably going to get a touch in it and it's going to go in.
Just a little flick.
Like, and Man City, their second goal against Liverpool, for example, on Sunday. Where,
big deflection.
Where it just hits Van Dijk and he's just standing there. And somehow that just, I don't understand how that didn't happen for us at one point.
Tim, with the number of shots he gets blocked, that's the one he just needed someone to get a touch on and it goes clear through.
Yeah, exactly. I really don't understand how we didn't get like a good ricochet all game. Even Zubimendi, when he hits the bar, that's a really clean hit on the face of the crossbar, no deflection whatsoever. So, you know, in a sense, it was kind of one of those days where I think if you go back and look at some of those shots, mathematically, the likelihood that not a single one of them takes a kind deflection for us is kind of mad, actually. When you consider,
especially with so many players in the box and just
when you consider they get a couple of goals where the bits and pieces do drop for them. So in a sense, it kind of, I think it summed up our day a little bit. But I said on the instant reaction, I didn't give him the stock rising, but I had Ezra down as a stock rising because I did feel he was more involved in this game, and particularly in the second half when we started to do really good stuff. I felt like, I haven't looked at the touch count, but he felt much more involved and much less peripheral in this game for me.
Yeah, and sometimes to score a goal, everybody has to do the right thing right away. So for the Saka goal, Clive, it's Rice does the amazing ball recovery. Eze gets the ball and immediately sees the pass to Marino, slides the angled ball to Marino. First time pass to Saka. Saka slots beautifully. Saka so often is the guy who does the thing that changes the game. He did it again here. So do you want to add to what Tim built on, or do you want to get to the two goal scoring heroes in Saka and Leo?
Just a little bit on Eze. I think he has to find his emotional input into our team. Is he? I'm not saying confidence is the wrong word, maybe, but I feel as though when he walks on the pitch, I feel as though he has to be a bit more ball dominant, just a little bit more. I sense it, I feel it. You're too good to just watch the play going around you. Step out of your space to just get on the ball a bit more. And it's really frustrating when you see the dribble he did in the second half. He's one dribble in the game, just leapt out of the screen, right?
The one where he gets to all the way to the byline?
Mate, I don't know what he did to get around
like
there.
4 different guys. I think it was actually like 50-minute mark, but it was before halftime. It was right before, or was it second half? It was...
I thought it was second half, but I may be wrong. But he just skipped down the right-hand side. And he went through someone like they weren't even there. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, how have you done that? How have you done that? And the burst he had. So when you see that, you think, well, can you do that a bit more, please? Just do that a bit more, and want to do that a bit more. I find myself, I think he's been excellent. I think he's much more of a moments player than a metronome that sets our play. So he's looking for moments, and he's unlucky not to have 3 more goals this year. I'll tell you now, Newcastle he should have scored. This game very, very similar. So he's looking for those moments. He's in the right place, edge of area, on the D to get shots. And if that's what you've been told, you're doing a really good job of it, and you're going to score lots of goals, like Trossard's goal. You're going to score lots of goals. In my heart, in my gut, I want to see more of him because I like him. So can you get on the ball a little bit more and be a bit more influential? You know, when you look at the Saka, I think Saka passed to Eze once in this game. And I want that to be a bit higher. They're mates. I'm not saying I want you to crowd Saka out, but it can't be once. Do you know that's not right, you know, for me. And so I want you to have a little bit more combinations with him, work together, because you're both excellent, you're on the same wavelength. So I think there's a bit more to come from him, I'll be honest with you. I think he's still settling in. There's more there, and I just want to see it, basically.
Can I ask you something about that, actually, Clive? Go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to say that's just about adjusting to playing for Crystal Palace compared to Arsenal, where Crystal Palace you might attack once every 10 minutes, whereas at Arsenal you're attacking all the time.
But I think there's something more to that, too, which is he was the ball-dominant, high-usage guy at Crystal Palace. If you watch Palace, when they get the ball, they look to give it to Eberechi Eze. And there was an interesting moment in this game where Eze I think it's Zubi's on the ball, and Eze just kind of runs and stands 1 yard from him, like, here, give me the ball, I'll take it from here. And Zubimendi's like, I'm not going to give you the ball 1 yard away so you can have it. I got it right here. He just turns away from passes it somewhere else. I think Eze was used to be the guy who came and got the ball and had the high usage. He's averaging about 9 fewer touches a game than during his time at Palace. And that's a Palace team that had the ball less. So that's almost probably like 15, 18 touches a game fewer. Yeah. I think having the personality to realize I need to fit into the collective is great. Not thinking I'm at Arsenal and I still want the ball all the time. But maybe he's overdoing it. Maybe he's overdoing trying to be part of the collective instead of expressing that personality. Give me the ball. I want the ball. I'm going to go do something special. But I still can't help but think when Ødegaard's there with his 60 touches and 18 ball progressions a game, and Eze can drift in from the left, that's going to make a big difference. But Clive, to that point, he's going to have a hell of a time getting that job because the guy who's got that job right now is Leo Trossard, and he's playing some sensational football. I mean, he had a couple of really beautiful passes that could have led to goals in this game. I can't remember the last really great outside of the box open play goal we've scored. But Leo is smart. He is talented. And the way he strikes that ball, when it went in, I let out a scream. It was such a big moment. I don't know why I feel like he's underrated because he certainly shouldn't be. But Clive, this was a game where Leo, in a way, kind of took things into his own feet, literally. You know?
And he has these games, right? And he has his game. And I always fall for it. I always think, oh my God, he's brilliant. He has to start the next game. And the next game comes along. And the first half, I'm going, well, why did I do it? He hasn't touched the ball. Why did I do it? But what I like about this, you know, it's all right scoring the fourth goal in the 4-0, but mate, stand up when we got no strikers. Stand up when we got a midfielder running around up front, trying to be in the right position. This is when basically him and Saka have to be the main men. And for me, I thought they were on the day. I really did. So stand up when your team needs you. And I thought he did it, mate. And some of his, he does these through nutmeg passes. And when they come off, they're like, great. When they don't come off, it's like, just play it simple, son. You know what I mean? Like, But I thought he keeps doing this on that left-hand side, and I like it. The him and Calafiori thing have turned into something nice. And when we're picking teams in our minds, we think that Eze can do that role, you know? But if you're going to do that role, you better compete with him. If Calafiori is going to be the left-back for 70% of the time, and he's a runner, you need a passer next to him. If you have Martinelli playing, then maybe you need a Miles who's a bit more of a passer at left back playing. Do you see what I mean? And so you have combinations in there. And I think Trossard has found his mates. He's got Rice looking after all his weaknesses. He's got Calafiori just stormtrooping around. And Trossard sitting in the left 10-ish, much like Eze did for Crystal Palace, by the way. Left 10. And he's just there and he's cruising. But you know what? He's giving us end products as well, assists and goals. So at the moment, if there was a player of the month for November, he'd be right up there, wouldn't he? Right up there.
Yeah, a huge moment, a moment that deserved to win the game, and I feel for him that it didn't. We don't have to say much more about Saka. We praised Saka to the rafters many times on this pod. It's great that he did what he did. I want to start to get to what happened after Leo's goal and some of the questions about how we approached that period. But Paul, you want to add on anything we've said on Leo and on that section of the game?
Yeah, so like one thing I've been really impressed with Leo is just how good he is off the ball. I mean, he's not going to be brilliant, right? There's you got to grade on a curve a little bit. For an attacking player, like obviously Arteta was trying to shore up this result. His first reaction wasn't, oh, I need to get kind of flighty Trossard off the pitch. He left him on there. He does his work. He covers. He fills in the spaces. He presses. Now, there's a limit to how intense he can be, but I think he works right to his limit. And that's another factor for Eze, right? He's going to have to replace not just the intelligence and the connectivity and the fact that we finally have a left-hand side on this team that's maybe as good as the right-hand side currently. Obviously, the right-hand side can hit higher highs when you get Ødegaard, when you get Saka, when you get Saka completely on one. But the left-hand side is a real strength for us now with the Trossard, Calafiori axis there and the run. And like Calafiori makes that overlapping run that frees. That's when Trossard jinks to the right and pile drives that shot into the net. Calafiori has pulled the defender and Trossard's marker just a yard to that side. So there's a lot to give up here to swap out Eze for Trossard. And, you know, one aspect of it is he trusts Trossard now in terms of both sides of the ball. So lots of work there. I love Eze. He's got lots to add. But, he's got a job there to shift Trossard because the manager now, I think, really, really trusts what Trossard's giving him on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, well said. I'll stay with you for a second, Paul. It did feel like we were, after that goal, a lot of emotion expended, a lot of energy expended. This everybody was saying the same thing Tim put in his headline for the instant reaction, which is one game too far. It's 3 away games in a week. It's all those players missing. We needed an out ball. McCall had to make a decision about whether to stick with the group on the pitch or not. And I understand why he played the end game of this game the way he did. First of all, you know it's going to be big and physical and a lot of long straight balls and a lot of free kicks and things like that. By the way, I have to laugh at Sunderland moving the advertising hoardings closer to the touchline to prevent Arsenal's long throws when we are absolutely shit at long throws, and they took more long throws than we did. So kudos to them, I guess, on that one. Absolute rocket surgery there. But Paul, I think it's tough because you could come up with post hoc things like, well, he should have brought Nketiah on for Leo and White on for Saka, and then we would add more defenders, but more physicality and maybe a little more energy. But then you have no outball, especially, and I don't know what else he could do but mascara for Eze, really. And by leaving Saka on, Saka delivers the cross for Calafiori's header and Marino's saved shot late that could have won it anyway. So it is a bit damned if you do, damned if you don't. But how could he have done this differently, if at all?
I mean, in terms of players he would trust in that stage of the game, I understand why Eze comes off. And like, he is a great counter-attacking player, but if you're watching your team beginning to flag across the pitch, the one thing you're thinking is, I want more players on there that give the rest of the team more support, a multiplier in terms of their energy and effort. So he's going to look to get Eze off, right? He's like, that lightens the load for other players by putting on another worker bee on there. So I know, like, I totally get why he puts Mosquera on there. He's got another physical, tall defender on there. It turns out we actually needed those. It didn't quite play out.
Yeah.
But it meant he had size and physicality as his team began to flag. Of course, there are always things you can do. But at the end of the day, if he'd had other options, like, Martinelli can do a job too, and might have been a great guy to bring on with 15 minutes to go, where he can scream in behind their defense and pull them up the pitch. But without those options, without a Havertz would have been a great guy to bring on, because he gives you the work rate, he gives you the height when you need it defending set pieces, and he will streak up the pitch and beat the keeper 1v1. So, like, there are tools that he didn't quite have in his toolkit.
I thought maybe an elite carrier. I mean, Ethan, he's 18 and it's a physical game. I thought maybe, like, can you get him on? Because he can literally just carry the ball past people and flip the pitch. But one thing...
I get that, but, like, if I'm the manager's feeling what the team needs, and I don't think he's thinking, you know what these flagging players need is Ethan.
No, just so we're clear, right? Like, I don't know that there was much of a better option. Clive, one thing that I did think, though, so Mosquera comes on for Eze at 88 minutes, and a chill went down my spine because he did the Rob Holding 5-4-1 hand gesture, and it just did. I had an instinctive vomit reflex from the 5-5-4-1 gesture, and it took me back to the bad old days of Rob Holding coming in and being like gas on the fire. But one thing I wanted to ask you is, like, and we love Rob Holding, but but we did go to a 5-4-1. And one thing I'm just curious about, that's a different shape. That's different defenders standing in different zones with different responsibilities. And Saliba was lost on the ball, the long straight ball. He didn't know where to stand. Gabby's marking two guys. Mosquera's not there. Do you think that sometimes bringing on the extra defender, if you change the back line to a 5 instead of a 4, just throws off the zones of responsibility the players are used to occupying?
I think there's a couple of phases in this attack. So I think we were set for the first phase. And do you remember when they tried to cross it and Saka gets a little deflection? Mm-hmm. Right? So, and Marino had his Doc Martens on, couldn't get across there in time. He was flagging, understandably. Mm-hmm. And the guy just takes a reverse cross back against the grain. And I don't think we were set for it. And so Saliba had never got off the ground. And to defer to Big Gabby, he then sees the danger and throws himself at it. And because he was so good at throwing himself at it, he gets a deflection. He goes over the goalkeeper. If he'd have been a step slower, I think Raya saves it. Right? So I think if I'm the manager, right, you got to come in the dressing room after this game. And you've got all those substitutes. They're all watching the game thinking, I can help here, I can help. And you got to go out to them and say, sorry, I didn't get you on. You're having too many of those conversations. So once you go 5-4-1, I'm all right with that. Honestly, I'm fine with it. I think we're going to do it again, and that's what we do late in games. I'm all right with it because for us, it works. But I do think you could have I would have brought on Christian Ødegaard for Zubimendi. That's what I would have done. I would have said, I need to add some energy in my midfield. I need to add some defensive alertness. Zubimendi, you're no longer going to be outside of your box. You're going to be inside your box. Now, you are decent in the air. You had a rest in midweek because you were suspended. So I know why I kept you on. Same for Calafiori, 6'100". He hasn't played in the week. So I'm going to keep him on. Do you see what I mean? So I know why he did that. But when you do Mosquera, do Ødegaard as well and commit to it. Commit to that strategy fully. Don't just do one sub. I would say, you know what? We have got fit defenders. They're all chomping at the bit. Mate, chuck them all on. Maybe do White for Timber as well. Just don't leave so many resources unused. Me and Tim talk about this all the time on the women's side of the game, and I get the ump with it. So I'm not saying I wanted Timber to come off. I didn't. but you just add a bit of freshness by bringing on a White. So it may be on 88, just do three subs. And suddenly, Sunderland got new bodies, new fresh people, different people to think about.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. And you say, you know what, I'm gonna ugly this one out. I'm gonna ugly it out. And I've got the subs, I've got the sub windows. They're all there ready to go, unless we don't know about injuries to somebody that we're not aware of. And that's what I would have done. I would have just gone the Ødegaard route. And it's so, I can say that now in hindsight, Elliot. You know why? Because when they reversed it, it was Zubimendi up against Dan Ballard. Why are we doing that again? You know? And I think, and we couldn't get enough around him. He affected the exits and they get the second ball. So that's the only thing I would do. And to be honest, every single game we don't win, I would always be able to find a reason what we could have done from the bench. And we all would, right? So that's it.
Paul, quickly.
Yeah, the quick one is we went 5-4-1. If only we'd been 5-4-1 for their goal, the second goal, because the 4 has collapsed. And I think there's plenty of things to be said about players and approach, but there's also fatigue because we don't have that 4. If you picture that 4, that screen, that guy doesn't get that pass off. He doesn't get the cross in. We've basically collapsed to man marking in our back line. They got 5-6 players. So we put 5, Declan Rice is 2 feet ahead of our defending line. Trossard's now between the 4 line and the 5 line.
Yeah, we've sunk too deep. I mean, it's to Clive's point, right? I mean, if you have fresher legs, maybe that line could just stay the 3 yards higher it needs to and get some space away from its own defensive line.
Because here we are talking about what Saliba and Raya did. The ball should never go in.
Yeah, it should be blocked, cut out. Yeah, well, Tim, we'll finish on this, but I think I do think sometimes, to Clive's point, football's a physical contest. You need guys that can run around. They made 4 changes. We made 1. They were fresher. And that can be some of it. And obviously we played a game a day earlier than they did, three away game, or more recently than they did, 3 away games in a week. They're a team playing once a week, but and they have the energy lift you get from a home crowd as well. But there are going to be some people that say we have a tendency sometimes to see out games in too defensive a structure. Do you find fault with not getting on the ball more, with 35% possession over a 5-minute period where they really, had us on the ropes? I mean, we are a team that should, in theory, be able to repel these attacks. We've done it before. We've done it against better teams in Sunderland, and we will do it again. If your identity is the best defensive team in the world, trying to make it 5 minutes to see out a game against Sunderland in a defensive shape is okay with me. But there is a question of whether the balance of how little we have the ball in those situations is tilted too much towards defending. So setting aside the substitution options, did the team need to be a little bit more conscious of getting on the ball and trying to keep possession?
Ideally, yes. But I do think it's difficult to see how we could have done that. And I think sometimes coaches will do this thing that I think that maybe as lay people, we're not as kind of, because we're not in touch with the players, we're not talking to the players, we're not talking to the assistants, we're not we don't have communication with them. And I've used this example a lot down the years, but I remember it was an Arsenal women game against Chelsea once, and Jonas Ødegaard went 5 at the back for the last 10 minutes. And I asked him about it afterwards, and he said, ideally, I don't want to do that. And that, that we didn't really train for that, and I didn't want to do it, but I could see the players wanted it. I could see the players wanted it and needed it. So I got that third centre back on. And he said, sometimes as a coach, you have to respond to what your players are telling you, whether they tell you with their mouths or tell you with what's going on. For me, the substitution discussion, it depends which way you take it, right? If Mikel Arteta could have that time back, I'm sure he makes different substitutions. And I'm sure he does, because we know the outcome now, right? But it's what's the information he has at the time. Zubimendi had won 4 out of 4 of his aerials at that point. 5 out of 5.
He's elite at.
He loses 1. And which one is it? It's the one in the build-up to the goal. Is it just because sometimes you lose an aerial? Is there a bit of lactic acid in there that stops the jump from being as high as it could? I don't know. I'm not particularly, quote-unquote, angry about any of that. I'd really have given my left arm for a Martinelli or a Madueke or someone to make them think in the other
Go
direction.
chase a long, hopeless ball.
Or one thing I think you could look at is maybe not the substitutions in this game, but maybe in Slavia, can we get Saka off on 70 minutes and just sod what happens to the rest of that game? Can we play Mascara instead of Saliba? Can we say, Saliba, you're a bit of an injury doubt. We trust Mascara against Slavia Prague. Maybe not because of the tactics he employed, but I think maybe there were substitutions that could have been made in the 2 previous games when those games were won, where we could have gone, do you know what? It might be a bit messy for 10 minutes. We might even shock horror concede a shot on target, but let's just tolerate the fact that's going to be messy, and let's come into Sunderland in the best possible shape. I think that's more where my criticism would tend.
The problem with outcomes is that they change the analysis. But when you really look at it, at 90+4, Arsenal are winning this game. And at 90+4, following the Leo Trossard goal, Sunderland had 0 shots. We were doing it. We were seeing it out. A weird ball back into the mixer that got it, maybe a little deflection, gets misread. Raya makes a decision he would not make 9 times out of 10, and they get one of the flukiest goals where Brobby scissor kicks with his off foot, goes off Gabby. Raya's made an error, and it finds the back of the net. And then, even then, it takes a great save off a Calafiori header and an amazing block to keep Marino out. But the fact is, when you're winning at 90+4, and a fluke happens, that's going to change how you analyze everything that happened leading up to that. But the fact is, we had it. We had it. He stays on his line, or the ball doesn't clip off Gabby's head, and it's done. The game is done. They had 0 shots to that point from the time Leo had equalized, or scored the winner. So it is a gut punch. It is a gut punch that they will recover from. In a way, I almost think it's better to have the 2 weeks now, because instead of having to walk back on the pitch feeling like, oh shit, we've really let them go, you get 2 weeks to get that emotion out of your head, to get all the players back, to come back and refocus, because it's big, big games after the break. It is the Derby. It is Chelsea. It is Villa. It is Bayern Munich. And Liverpool and City go into, well, City have Newcastle, so that's a tough one. But then they go into a run more like the one we just had, where they will be in points accumulation mode. So getting the players back now is absolutely crucial. But we've extended our lead during this period of the season, and we're in a position no one would have expected us to be in by now. And we should remember that the position we're in now is a position every single person listening to this pod would have taken if offered to you before the season kicked off. So we don't want to overemphasize it. I was gutted at full time, just so we're clear. But with hindsight and with clarity, you can see how positive our position is. And to be that good for this long with so many players missing, we're only going to get better, to Paul's point. So we might try to sneak in a second half rewatch. We're going to get the Ødegaard pod. We're going to get an Adam Cleary pod for patrons. We're going to have the main pod. We're going to have the Cup Winners' Cup Series wrapping up. So lots to keep you getting through this. Remember, if you sign up for Patreon, you get a pod almost every single day. They go right in your regular pod player. We'd love to have you there. AVP 50, a couple of quid, and you can see what you think. Otherwise, just stay here because we love you for being in. I cannot emphasize this enough. You mean the world to us. Really, this is the joy of my life for sure. And going through this together means everything to me. So thank you for being there. That's going to do it for a full house podcast, the rare full house pod. But always a pleasure. Paul, thank you.
Woohoo!
Tim, thanks, man.
My pleasure as always.
Thanks, Clive.
Thank you very much.
Well, God, it's on the horizon already, isn't it? We love you. And we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Spurs 0.